has ensured that Georgia can trust in their elections. I want to speak briefly also about the organization called ERIC. It's ericstates.org. When House Bill 316 was signed into law, it allowed us to go ahead and authorized us to have our new voting system. It also allowed us to join a multi-state organization. And that specifically was the Electronic Registration Information Center. We became a member of ERIC, and we think it's a very valuable tool. Unfortunately, a few years ago, someone started posting things out there and really said that it was an organization that was not doing good work and it was run by bad characters. Well, it was actually run by the fellow state members that were us. And many Republican states withdrew from ERIC. This is why we did not withdraw from ERIC, because I wanted to make sure we always had the cleanest voter list in the entire country. In 2023 alone, we have completed the following. 84,523 mailings were sent to voters who filed a national change of address indicating an out-of-county move with data provided by ERIC. 127,904 mailings were sent to voters who filed a national change of address indicating a move within the same county, which is also data provided by ERIC. 100,685 mailings were sent to voters who filed a national change of address indicating a move out of state, also data provided by ERIC. 82,077 mailings were sent to voters identified as moving out of state, with data provided by ERIC. 32,285 mailings were sent to voters identified as moving within Georgia, with data provided by ERIC. Add that all up, you come up to 432,474 voters, because we are members of ERIC. I believe that every state should be a member of ERIC. I wish all 50 states were. It would allow us all to have cleaner, accurate, more up-to-date voter list. But list maintenance is an ongoing process, and it involves utilizing all the resources at our disposal. This summer, I instructed my elections division to conduct a comprehensive citizenship audit using our new voter registration system, Jarvis, and cross-referencing our data with all the databases available to our office. That's the second audit in 2 years. This is the most comprehensive citizenship check conducted in the history of Georgia, if not the most comprehensive check ever conducted in the United States of America. Utilizing records from county courts, the Georgia Department of Driver Services, and the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, we were able to conclusively find 20 non-citizens who were on the voter rolls. All 20 of these voter registrations have been canceled, and all of them are being referred to local prosecuting law enforcement. There are 156 people that require additional human investigation, and my office opened a case file into these individuals. Other states that have conducted audits were not able to get to the level of detail that our office achieved with this audit. This is due to Georgia's commitment to cutting-edge technology, as well as our willingness to collaborate with other government agencies to ensure that we have the most up-to-date data. Georgia is a model when it comes to preventing non-citizen voting. We have front-end citizenship verification, where citizenship is verified through Department of Driver Services or the online voter registration portal. In addition, Georgia is a 100% Real ID compliant state. We conduct continuous list maintenance and require photo ID for all forms of voting. Elections are an ever-changing process, and as more technology becomes available, Georgia election security should grow with it. List maintenance is not a one-time thing. It is an ongoing process with incremental improvement. We need to remain constantly vigilant. I am committed to keeping up with list maintenance activities and will be conducting a comprehensive citizenship audit once a year going forward. Now, in other great news, probably should put some smiles on all of your faces. Georgia is having continuing records every day, it seems, with early voting turnout. As of close of polls yesterday, we have received 1,929,628 ballots. Of those, 1,814,223 are from early voting in person, and 115,000 from absentee by mail. With just under 2 weeks until the election, an astounding 26.8% of all active voters have already participated. By lunch, we should cross the incredible hallmark of 2 million voters casting their ballots already. This is proof in Georgia it's easy to vote and hard to cheat. And I do want to let you know that I'm just really proud of our elections team office. And I don't know if you've gone to this spot yet, but I'm going to do that right now. But I want to give a shout out to our team, but also our election data hub. And I don't know if you can see that, but right on there, it's going to show you how many people have had their absentee ballots accepted, how many people have turned out for early voting, what that total number is. And you can also look at the percentages of all the counties and actually how many people showed up on each county. I'm just really grateful for the work that our election team has done so far. We know that we're just not even halfway through this process. Grateful for the work of our counties. And I'm going to call up our Chief Operating Officer, Gabriel Sterling, because he has some additional details that we'd like to share with you. Gabriel?
Well, good morning. Happy to see so many of you, and thank you for our international friends for joining us, because obviously Georgia's center of the political universe. I want to get a few specific things out there. The 20 individuals we found as non-citizens who were canceled based on individualized information from those people. What it is they signed affidavits to get out of jury duty, basically saying, I am a non-citizen. So we were able to look at those and see that they were not citizens. They signed a thing swearing they were not a citizen, and they were in 7 different counties, and those are the jurisdictions to which they will be referred for investigation and prosecution. Those counties are Fulton, Cobb, Bibb, Clayton, Henry, Gwinnett, and DeKalb. Again, Fulton, Cobb, Bibb, Clayton, Henry, Gwinnett, and DeKalb. As the Secretary said, the reason we were able to get these additional 156 individuals who we do not know if they are citizens or not is because of the upgrade in our technology over the last few years. The original audit was done in the old voter registration ENET. The new one has been done under JARVIS, the Georgia Registered Voter Information System. And yes, we did get the name from the Marvel movies, just to really tweak people. But because of that, we have a better interface with the Department of Driver Services. So in the initial audit, we did not have alien identification numbers for individuals who had gotten driver's license. Now we were able to send names that were empty on that front that came back as null on citizenship verified to the Department of Driver Services, get those A numbers and bring back, and they still say they don't have proof of citizenship yet. That does not mean that they are for sure non-citizens. So what we have to do is we have to have human investigation where a investigator will knock on a door, look at documentation and find those things. And that will be a continuing effort as the Secretary pointed out. Another thing to point out is in the time in office, we have been able to legally cancel over 1 million registrations. That's not canceling voters, it's canceling registrations of people who are no longer in the state, who no longer have a valid right to vote. And I want to point something out. If you go to the data hub that the Secretary talked as we go through, that's because of 2 things. 1, voter registrations that were received before the deadline but had not been processed, and 2, and very, very importantly in this situation, inactive voters who were in the process of being canceled, who were still there, who came and voted. And that's the important reason. You can't just take a national change of address list and say you have to cancel these people, because there are people who have legal rights, and federal law is there to protect those rights, and state law is there to protect those rights, and our office will always protect the rights of every voter. So with that, I'll take any questions. Archith. Okay, and an active voter is somebody who was an active voter at one point, and a few things might have happened that would cause them to get a notification saying, hey, it doesn't look like you're here anymore. It's going to be a national change of address, it's going to be a returned mail, and it's going to be, what's the third thing? A cross-state check would be the other reason. And then they will get a mailing saying, contact us within a certain amount of days, and if not, we're going to move you to inactive. And once you're on the inactive list, if you miss 2 general election cycles, which means a gubernatorial and a presidential, then they will put you to a cancel status, but we will again send a mailing to you saying, hey, one last time. And this office was the first to actually release the list publicly. So anybody can go search that list, look for their friends, look for their family, and see if they're in that position to be canceled. And of course, we can only do these in 90-day windows outside of the election for this kind of systematic update of lists. Mark. This is data, and there are human beings involved in data. There's always a possibility there could be a handful, but there are states around this country that are being lauded for pointing out that they have thousands of non-citizens that they've kept on the list but moved over to this other bucket. And we have tens and hundreds because on the front end, being a real ID state, and what you need to understand is anybody in Georgia who has gotten a driver's license in the last it started in 2012, we were completely real ID by 2016, means you have to have your proof of citizenship, because the only way you're allowed to get a driver's license is if you are a citizen or you're a legal resident alien, which means you have to have walked in there with your alien ID card, if you want to get that. And once you have the alien ID number, you are not going to be asked to get it on the voter rolls, and that's been since 2016. Or you have to have your birth certificate or your passport. And if it's unfortunate, too, if you're a woman who is married, you have to walk in there with your marriage certificate. And if you're a woman who's been married and divorced, you have to walk in there with your marriage certificate and your divorce decree to show what your name is, so it matches your Social Security records. So we have a very, very strong system on the front end. And one of the good things is you have to interface with it once every 8 years in Georgia. A situation we saw in Arizona where they have basically tens of thousands of people who predated their citizenship check in 1996 was in Arizona, once you get a driver's license, it's good for 50 years. So you never have to go back into the government and talk about anything against it. That's one of the issues that they've run into because of their 2-tiered system that they have, where they have a federal only. If you're can't prove you're a citizen, you can vote in all the federal races, including president, but you can't vote in state races. And interestingly, right now in Arizona, the Republican Party is suing to keep those people on, or they did sue to keep those people on through the next election cycle because the majority of them are registered Republicans. Yes, ma'am. Well, one of the reasons the Secretary ordered this non-citizenship audit is to prove to people that while there are ways that some can potentially get on, it is ceasingly rare, and especially in a state like Georgia that has very good data management. But in every state in this country, an individual has to sign a certificate stating that they are, in fact, a U.S. citizen. This is one of the things that the Secretary has fought for since he was elected in 2019. He and I and Deputy Fuchs went to Washington, D.C. in 2019 and to meet with Congress people who didn't want to talk about this. They need to update the National Voter Registration Act to allow for us to have better citizenship verification in all the states of the union. Because right now, the NVRA basically says you can't do it, which is why Arizona has that bizarre 2-tier system. There are federal rules that get in the way of this. There is no proof that there is this overwhelming number of non-citizens on the rolls. Because the reality is, if you're a non-citizen, and you're a legal resident and you're on a path to citizenship, if you try to register to vote, you will never get to be a citizen. It is a very high risk, very low reward for one vote thing. There are situations I know in other states where their DMVs are not as good at checking these things, and sometimes they will slip through unintentionally, and that's a bad situation. But in Georgia, I know this, and all across the country, the level of potential is very low, Is it there in every state? Likely, but a small, small amount. But at Georgia, we know we have the best system in America of stopping it on the front end. I do not see that changing the outcome of the election in Georgia, especially since we only identified 20 and they've all been canceled. Yes. Mhm. What it is we will work with our attorneys and our investigative unit to hand over all the evidence we have to the individual county DAs here. Now it's completely up to them to make the prosecutorial decisions. A situation we had where we had double voters, we handed them over, and take as an example, in Forsyth County, there were 2 double voters we handed over to them. They saw one, they said, we don't think we have enough to prosecute this one. Then they saw another where they believe they do have enough to prosecute. That is not our decision. That is not our investigator's decision, not our lawyer's decision. It is a local district attorney's decision to make those. Now, the evidence of some of these we think is at a high enough level where they probably should be prosecuted, but that's not our call. We did a press conference on that, and we had a press release on that before. I can get that back to you. I think we told 19 counties. How many double voters do we have, Blake? We'd have to check if we can get you that number. But it was, again, a very small number from multiple states. And the only reason we know this is because we are a member of ERIC, the Electronic Registration Information Center, and we compare those data. Yes, ma'am. Well, that's the reason I did the tweet is we need to understand that if you're hyper-partisan on either side, you are an easy point of manipulation for foreign powers who want us to beat each other's throats. We need to be as discerning as we can with the information that we see. And one of the things I've been telling people is if you see information that really scratches that partisan itch, whether it's on the hard left or the hard right, it probably isn't true. And to investigate multiple sources and trusted sources like the Georgia Secretary of State or your local county elections office and get the information from them. That's the best source. Go to trusted sources. Twitter and Facebook are not always the best place for news, whether you believe that or not. Oh, yes, ma'am. Every county that we've had that discussion in, it has been an individual who said, this isn't who I meant to vote for. And they go to the poll manager and they say, okay, come back, we will spoil this ballot and you can vote again, and they're able to do it. There is zero evidence of a machine flipping an individual's vote. Are there elderly people whose hands shake and they probably hit the wrong button slightly and they didn't review their ballot properly before they printed it? That's the main situation we have seen. There is literally zero. And I'm saying this to certain Congress people in the state, zero evidence of machines flipping votes. And that claim was a lie to 2020, and it's a lie now. Hold on. Yeah. Okay, all. You want to address all the misinformation. You have 2 or 3 days. I mean, that's the situation we have. It's a flood. And that's why I say you have to be discerning about it. But one thing to be clear, this office provided posters. This is in part to help people understand. If you're a non-citizen, it is illegal to vote in this state by state law and by federal law. And there are posters in most of the counties in this state that have that up now to explain that to people. Because for me, it's a very big risk for those who want to be citizens, and they need to understand that. There's misinformation that is unfortunate. And people, the incentives are backwards. And I've said this many times standing here and across the country at different talks. If I say something crazy that gets lots of retweets and lots of likes, I can raise more money. That's the incentive right now. So the crazier some of these claims can be, the specific claim we found out about in Whitfield County was one elderly voter who went to the poll manager and said, this isn't who I meant to vote for. Well, ma'am, why don't you come over here and we'll work with you? So they went over there. She printed the ballot she wanted. She went and cast that ballot. A Democrat poll watcher came to her and said, ma'am, was this experience okay? Absolutely, this is a great experience. She told somebody that story, then they told somebody that story, and then a tweet went out or a Facebook post went up, and that's where this came from. The problem is one little piece of a human error. And this is the problem. There's going to be 190 million people interfacing with a system they deal with once every 2 to 4 years, with hundreds of thousands of volunteer-level human beings. There are going to be errors. What we can't allow people to do is undermine people's faith in the outcome of the election because of natural human frailty. That's why we have so many safeguards in place, so many reconciliations in place, so many audits in place, and so many machines getting tested beforehand. All right, what else?
How did these 20 non-citizens get on the voter rolls in the first place? Was it all paper application forms before we had checks in place?
The majority of them we know were definitely before the 2012 time period. We're investigating some of the other ones. They might have been paper, but that's a deeper part of the investigation, although we do know they're on the rolls and they signed the form saying they're not a citizen, so they've been removed. That's something we have to investigate. All right, thank you all very much and have a great day, and let's break 2 million, get 3 million by the weekend.